welcome to the Kate and Kay show.
Today we're looking at the 16th book of the Bible, which is
Nehemiah.
It's just got windy.
I know.
And it's challenge time.
Okay, so I've set the challenge today, and Kay, you're going to try and get as much water from this bottle into this bottle. You're going to flip it. However, I've put some holes in this one just to make it a little bit harder. So I'm going to set a timer and see how much water you can get into it.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
And Max, get set, go!
It's not too bad. Oh no, wait. Oh no.
But use both hands.
I know, but I was trying to stop it from coming down.
No, that's not going to work.
How much longer?
2 seconds. 1, stop. Okay, let me see. Let everyone see. So, you didn't do too badly, but it was
about a
full. Yeah, about a third.
I didn't do a very good job, did I?
No.
There was nothing I could do.
You were meant to stop the water from coming out.
No, there was nothing I could do to stop the water from escaping, and now I'm very wet. So let's find out a bit more about the book of Nehemiah.
3 key words from Nehemiah are rebuilding walls and people.
Last week we learned about part 1 of this two-parter, Ezra. Well, Nehemiah continues on from the story that Ezra began. You might remember that in Ezra, some of the Jews have returned from exile and gone back to live in Jerusalem, where they'd started to rebuild the city walls and the temple. Well, the book of Nehemiah begins in a city called Susa with bad news about the progress of this building project. Nehemiah, the Jewish cupbearer to the king, hears that it isn't going that well, that really they haven't got that far at all. And so he sits down and he prays for a long time. And then he trusts God and bravely asks the king for permission to go back to Jerusalem to help rebuild the city. But the king says yes, and also agrees to give Nehemiah some of the materials that were needed for the rebuilding. This is amazing, but it shouldn't surprise us because God is in control. He loves his people and he promises to give them what they need. So Nehemiah travels back to Jerusalem and the people agree to work hard together to get the walls rebuilt. And in only 52 days, and even though some of God's enemies are trying hard to stop the work, the walls are rebuilt and Jerusalem is secure. This is an amazing achievement. But once again, it shouldn't surprise us because when God is on your side, we can be really confident that he will make sure his plans work out. Listen to this verse from the book of Nehemiah.
Nehemiah chapter 6:16. When all our enemies heard about this, all the surrounding nations were afraid and lost their self-confidence because they realized that this work had been done with the help of our God.
But it isn't just the city of Jerusalem that needed to be fixed. God's people themselves need a transformation. Rebuilding the walls doesn't fix the problem of their hearts. The sin just keeps spilling out, just like trying to trap the water in that bottle earlier. There was nothing that they could do themselves to fix the problem. They kept forgetting God, they kept disobeying him, they kept turning away from his rule and treating each other very badly. And so once the walls are finished, the people gather together and Nehemiah, Ezra and the priests read God's word to them, and the people respond by admitting their sin, asking for forgiveness, and then promising to obey and live with God in charge of their lives. This is an amazing change, but we shouldn't be surprised because God changes people's hearts. However, Nehemiah ends in a way that doesn't surprise us either, even though the people have promised to follow God again, and even though they start well, it isn't long before lots of them begin to live their own way once more. Nehemiah ends with him praying again, asking God to remember him for his faithfulness. And in ending this way, Nehemiah points us forward to a time when someone else will come along and make a permanent change in the hearts of God's people. Even though Nehemiah has done a great job, he isn't able to sort out sin. And so we have to wait for the amazing way God will do this, by sending his Son into the world to be the King who died and rose again, so that sin could be sorted forever, and so that one day God's people could live in a new city with him, which will never be destroyed, and which sin and death and failure can never get into.
What's the 16th book of the Bible? Genesis,
Exodus,
Leviticus,
Numbers,
Deuteronomy,
Joshua,
Judges,
Ruth,
1 Samuel,
2 Samuel,
1 Kings,
2 Kings, 1 Chronicles,
2 Chronicles, Ezra,
Nehemiah.